So this is Masterclass Lesson 11, Deck Building versus Playtesting. So pretty much, oh yeah, sorry, let me just play this in the background. So pretty much, this is more about playtesting than deck building. It's just that some people think that when you, that you have, in order to truly have a deck, you gotta play test it. It's like, well, that's for your own personal experience. It's for your own personal growth as a player. It's for you to play test, that way you know, one, how to play the deck, two, if you built the deck right, if you balanced it out and stuff like that, ratios and all that stuff. But when you have as many years of deck building experience I have, which is going on to 20 years now, you don't really need to play the game, you know, to be able to build a deck, especially a deck that's, you know, consistent and powerful, and you know, and can win and all that good stuff. And since I've built a lot of decks in other games that have similar mechanics to this game, you know, I already know what works and what doesn't work from these other games, you know, like Duel Masters, Magic and whatnot. So I already know, you know, the certain concepts that I can translate over to this game, and you know, and be able to build decks really fast. Because it's fun. Because for me, it's normal to be able to build decks, you know, like clockwork. But for other people, that it surprises them. Like, how can you make 5 deck profiles a day? Like, that's, how do you come up with these 5 different decks in a day? And it's, you know, well, that's what you get from experience. That's what you get from being good at something. You know, you get better at it. And normally, long time ago, yeah, I'm old, long time ago, I would have to test out a deck to get it to work. A lot of it was because of certain variables, like there wasn't that many cards. Like, well, I'm talking about Yu-Gi-Oh right now, but there wasn't that many cards you can that can search, right? They can draw and so forth and so forth. Like, there was very few cards, so there was only but so much you can do when it came to building a deck to make something consistent. So over time, they started adding, you know, in Yu-Gi-Oh, they started adding more cards that can let you search and draw and stuff like that. So that helped increase. So obviously that helped increase the chances of you making a deck more consistent. And even for a long time, a lot of people didn't like think about consistency. There was a time where people used to play like 1 copy of every card they wanted to play. So they just, you know, they just took a whole bunch of good cards they liked. They put 1 copy of each in the deck, and then just hoped that by randomness, right, that they would draw the card at the right time. Basically, the harder cards, right? You got that 1 MST you put in the deck, even though you're allowed 3 at max, you're only going to put 1 in the deck. Because what, you only own 1, or you just felt like 1 was enough because you believed in the harder cards? Jokingly, right? But at the same time, that was a mindset that a lot of players had. They literally play 1 copy of every card. Did it work? A lot of times it did. A lot of times you would draw that 1 card at that one important moment, but it wasn't always guaranteed. So for me, I always preferred to max out for consistency, because for me, the less copies of a card you play, then you're playing randomly, right? So like in Dragon Ball Super, for example, the max is 4, so I play 4 for consistency, for me to not play the game randomly. So then skill matters, you know, making the right choices at the right time. You see, I got 2 bodyguard allergics, right? Because I got 4 in the deck. I put 1 in the energy, and I'm using that one to play the game. You know what I mean? So my decision making, you know, is what affects this. But if I only had 1, let's say I only had 1, then if I charged it, now I wouldn't have the second one to play, right? So that's an important detail. It's like having more copies means, 1, I would draw it when I need it. As you can see, I got 2 of them. So I needed 1 for energy, because I don't want to put all these other amazing cards in my hands into the energy area. And then I was able to play 1, right? And then it's right here, right now. turn 2, I'm already putting it to work. It's already, allowing me to go aggro. Yeah, I mean, my opponent's already at 4 life already. It's only turn 2. It's only my second turn, and I'm already applying pressure. Could use it as a blocker, of course, because it is a 15k blocker, so I could be defensive with it, but I'm going aggro with it. So having more copies increases the chances of me getting the card, and then I decide if I'm going to use it or not, whatever, right? I could just put them all as energy if I want. I could have charged the Legic instead of the Goku and kept the Goku for the border wipe, right? Kaioken Goku, I could have kept that, but I chose not to because I'd rather play the Legic, decision making. So that's why having multiple copies is better than having just 1 or 2, hoping that I get it at the right moment at the right time, because then that's just luck. And I consider myself a skillful player, so I'd rather play by skill, not by luck. So I play 4 of everything. That increases my chances. Imagine if I only played 2 of these Khalifas, you know what I mean? Because currently, from what I can see, there's 3 in the deck, but if I only played 2, there'd probably been only 1 in the deck, and the other one would be in my life. And that's another thing to take into account. The cards, they could be in your life, you might charge them as energy. They could be at the bottom of your deck. So many factors to take into account. So it's like, to minimize that randomness, I rather play 4 max out, play as many as I can. So that right there makes life easier. That makes deck building easier when I could just put literally 4 of everything, and that simplifies things. But what 4 of everything? That does matter. So ratios matter when it comes to the specific 4 specific cards I put into my deck and how I'm going to be using them. So for me, playtesting is not to really help fine tune a deck to make it work. If you need to playtest, right? And when I mean playtest, I'm talking about against an opponent, because I do test hands, of course, and I prefer test hands over because they're faster. Just playing out turns, playing out hands is more than enough for me to fine tune a deck. A lot of times, even just staring at a deck, I do that a lot. Just stare at my deck, like on my little app, and just be staring at it until I fine tune it. Let me see. No, I don't have it up now. I did have a deck profile deck I was working on, and all I do is just like stare at it and then play out a whole bunch of lines of plays and a whole bunch of what ifs. Like, what if I was going up against this deck, and what if this happens, what if that happens, what if I so on and so forth. So I take a lot into account. So I put a lot of thought into what I do. It's not guesswork. It's definitely not specific matchup. Like when I play against specific people or specific decks, that's what determines and molds and shapes what my deck is, what's in my deck, my knowledge, my experience, and what I want the deck to do. I made a video not too long ago, which was, if I'm right, was the last video, which is, no, not the last video, but it was a recent video, which was, it was the last video, right? Which was the idea of, I don't build my decks to beat a specific deck or specific player or anything like that. I don't focus on beating my opponent's deck. I focus on beating the game. So understanding the rules of the game, the mechanics of the game, figuring out certain details that are not too obvious to a lot of players. Because like, I guess I'll call it the unwritten rules of dueling. Like the idea that 25Ks, 30Ks, really good attack power, that you don't really need to combo for them, and as many 30Ks you can put into the deck, the better, right? A lot of people wouldn't know that. Not saying everybody wouldn't know. At least people are gonna be like, oh yeah, I know about 30Ks. 30Ks are awesome. I'm like, well, yeah, that should be obvious, but it's not always obvious. Sometimes people prefer effects over power sometimes, and I like effects over power at times, but that's where I have to be creative, because it's like, okay, I'm sacrificing attack power or attack power, right, for an effect. I better make sure that effect works wonders. I better make sure that effect is the best effect I could possibly ever have, because if not, then it would end up being a situation where it's like, yeah, this thing has a okay effect, but its power is also okay, not so good in this situation. So you want to be in a scenario that if the power of the card is low, the effect has to be amazing, right? It has to make up for the card's weakness. So it's strong one way versus the other way, right? Brains versus brawn, right? That concept. So think of an effect as intelligence, and think of just attack power as just strength, right? Just brute strength. And you have to be able to balance the two. If you put too many effects in a deck, which means you're gonna have a lot of weak cards, power-wise, that will put you in a bad situation where you need power but don't have the power, right? And then vice versa. You have too much power but not enough effects, not enough options, as they say, that you won't be able to get yourself out of a sticky situation, as they say. So I try to balance power and effect, as it were. So those factors come into play. So I do test hands more than anything. I do like to play, of course. I do like it when I can play a deck and play out the strategy, play out the lines of play, and make the decisions to combo, not combo, attack, don't attack, block or not, negate. Sometimes it's fun, especially like when you're blocking, negating, and then you're trying to decide, okay, I negate that attack and block that. That's fun. I mean, that's part of the game, right? That's what happens when you play test, is that you get that experience of, negating, making decisions. But that's not necessary for building a deck. That's just experience you get from playing, where like, okay, I'm gonna negate this attack. I'm gonna Dimension Magic that attack using my sparking effects. I can untap my energy, right? And then use my energy for the next attack to play my Sins with me and attack more energy. And then I'm a rival, and then I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna block, I'm gonna do that. Like all that is, comes from experience. But if you understand how certain cards work and whatnot, you can obviously make the best of it. Sometimes you can do something on the fly, right? Think on your feet, as they say. So sometimes you gotta figure out how to use certain cards at a certain point in time, on the fly, instead of pre-planned. Now, best thing to do, especially when you build a deck, is that you have to have a pre-plan. You gotta plan out a strategy. You gotta build the deck to play a certain way. Not just put a whole bunch of good cards in the deck and then just hope that your skill will carry you all the way. It's smart to be prepared, Always make sure you have a way that the deck's supposed to play, and then add your skill to it. Don't just build a deck where it's like, all right, let me just throw a whole bunch of good cards in the deck and then just rely on my skills only, because skills can only get you but so far. Same thing goes for cards. Cards can only get you but so far. Like, you can have a Boonie. It's a good card, but if you don't have the experience to use a Boonie properly, you could play at the wrong time. You might not have been paying attention and notice that your opponent's about to Godzilla trunks you when you play your little Boonie or something like that, or something similar to that, right? So it's like you gotta be very careful of what you're doing. So, experience, like I said, versus playtesting versus deck building. So I like to focus on costs, right? I prefer things that cost 4 or less. So I always look at cards that, like, every time they spoil cards, I'm like, okay, what are the 4 less cost cards, right? What's the 4 drop? What's the 3 drop, 2 drop, 1 drop, right? Just to see if there's anything in there of use. And then I do look at the 5 and higher, of course, and I always look to see if they have any way of cheating them out. Like in this video, you saw the 5 drop red green Gogeta. He has a rival for 1 red, if I'm right. Yeah, 1 red. So he can be easily cheated out. So I because of that, I have no problem playing something 5 cost or higher. You know, as long as I can play it for less than 4, then I'm interested in playing it. Now, if I have a random strategy or something similar to that, something that can let me hard cast something like a 7 drop UI Sign Goku, then that's, you know, the rare occasions where it's like, all right, I want to play this card. This is a good card, and I can, you know, drop heavy on it. Like I said, it was that I always look for 4 or less. You know, just my preference, especially if like on turn 2 I want to play 2 cards for like 1 energy, or turn 3 play a 1 drop or a 2 drop, you know, that kind of stuff. So sometimes you want to do more than 1 play with the energy you got, but ultimately, you know, you want to make sure that you have a play for like every turn. As your basic deck building strategy should be a card per turn, right? Turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, right? But it's always good to have secondary cards you can play for that. This is where I end up with the whole 12 unison. Let's see, what is that? Okay, there's an opponent. And so he wants to see my leader, so I showed him the back of the leader so he knows how it works. All right. So, there, what was I saying? Deck building, unisons. The reason why, you know, the 12 unison thing. The reason why we, what's going on there? The 12 unison thing. Why I have, you know, 12 unisons, for example, or even more than that. If you look at the numbers, it's that I have, you know, some 2 drop unisons, some 3 drops, 4 and 5, and then, you know, I do have a couple battle cards that are 2 drops and 3 drops and whatnot. The thing is that I want options. I want more than 1 3 drop, because if I'm in a situation where it's like, okay, turn 3, what do I need right here, right now, in case I need something right here, right now. On turn 3, what can I play on turn 3? Now I don't want to be stuck in a scenario where it's like, well, I only have 1 turn 3 play in the deck and it doesn't fit this situation. So it's nice to have more than 1 turn 3 play for that. For example, there are some cheap board wipes which are turn 3s. So I will want a turn 3 board wipe, you know, because that's the soonest we can get to board wiping. So I want turn 3 board wipes, but that's only if I need the board wipe, right? So I want to make sure it's in the deck in case I need it. If I don't need it, well, I need something else. I don't want to be like, well, then I don't have that many other plays to do other than this board wipe, and that'd be a waste of time to play your turn 3 board wipe when you don't really need it. So I'd rather save it for when I do need it, in case I need it on turn 4. So then I need another turn 3. So turn 3 unison would be good, right? A 3 drop unison, or a or just another 3 drop battle card, and play it on turn 3 and, you know, do something. So that's why I always try to put a couple extra turn 3s and 2s into the deck, because think about on turn 4 you could play two unisons, right? You pay 2 to play 1 unison, use it, then pay 2 more, play the other one, get rid of the first one, play the second one, and they're going to be different unisons. So they're going to be the same exact unison, right? Unless you drew 2 copies of the same one. But if you have different 2-drop unisons in your deck, and you have 4 of each, which means you're greatly increasing your chances of drawing at least 1 of those, you know, those cards, since you have 8 unisons altogether, right? But in this example, I was talking about 12, right? You have 12 unisons. There's a high chance that you'll get a unison in your opening hand, or later when you draw, when you activate effects and stuff like that. So at any given moment, in the game, you will get a unison. So, which you may get one or two, right? And they could be different, which is good because then it gives you options, and I'd rather have options. I have been able to play, of course, with decks that have multiple unisons in it, for example. So, I have tested out that they do work. I'm not just assuming having multiple unisons on the deck will work. I actually tried it. Besides doing test hands, also I actually tried it in actual combat, if you want to call it, by actually playtesting. Interesting note, some people might not know, I do have another untap account. This is the main one for the channel, of course, for channel gameplays, so I can do videos like this. But I do have a secret one. Not telling you what it is, obviously. It's a secret for a reason, because I know sometimes when I try to just play test to gain some experience with some cards, there's like, okay, the card looks good, but I'm not too sure how to use it. It just looks good, but it's like I don't know how useful it is. So then I will build a deck and try to test it out, but then I get people like spying on me, as it were. It's like, yeah, this is I need some privacy. I need to play and try things out and experiment, not to have an audience at the same time. So that's where the secret account comes in, so I can get some quick little plays. I don't play as much as I would like, but I do get some plays here and there. A lot of times it's just like once in a while I just play one time, just one match, one game, just to test some things out, just to experiment. Clearly this deck I was using multiple times, so I was going back to back on duels with this one. So this is a red-green aggro deck, just the Go Tanks deck. Got the Go Tanks there. 2 more turns, man, I go for game. From what you can see on this thing. 2 more turns, and I can have game. And my opponent makes the bad decision, taps out. I win, GG. But deck building, man. After a while, you just get good at deck building. You just get good at it. So you don't always have to test out, Obuni. It's like, Obuni is good. Everybody knows Obuni is good. I mean? Like, do I gotta really play every deck that I build that has Obuni in it to know it's good? No, I don't. I know it's good. It's a good card. If I put it in the deck, it's because, hey, I want that card in the deck because that card is good, even with in the deck, especially if it has certain effects that goes good with the leader. I'm like, all right, Obuni is good with this leader, so I'm gonna obviously put Obuni, and then that's it. I don't have to try it out and see if it works. No, it's obvious. A lot of things are obvious. Well, for me, a lot of things are obvious. For other people, not so. Like I could look at a new archetype that Bandai brings out, like Turles or something, but like, oh, that deck's powerful. If you build it right and you play it right, there's so much you can do with that, right? But then some people are like, nah, Turles ain't no good. It's like, okay, if you think so, clearly you didn't give it a try. You didn't, look at the cards properly, read them properly, and then, took the time to think out, like, how could this be powerful? Like, what was the purpose? Why did Bandai create this card to do this and that, and try to fine-tune things? I'm always trying to streamline, make things the best they can be. But I also like the idea of toolbox. That's the other thing, toolbox. Yeah, if I'm running this deck, there's no super combo. Well, most of my decks don't have super combos, except for the ones that do, of course. But most of my decks don't have super combos. But where was I going with that super combo reference? I don't play a super combo. I forgot. I lost train of thought of what I was going to say. Funny thing is, here I can arrival. All I have to do is combo off the Gogeta for 1 energy, and then bang, drop the second Gogeta. No, I think it is. No, I think I do have Nappa in here just for the arrival purpose. Clearly, it doesn't. He doesn't summon. He's just there for the arrival. I think I do have Gogeta. I mean, Nappa in here, so there probably is a super combo in here. Just, you know, it's not super important. It's just useful, obviously, but not super important. Where it's like, oh man, definitely this deck had to have a super combo. It's like, no, it's probably in there just because of the Gogeta arrival. I want to make it simple. If not, obviously I don't need it because I could just combo off a red green card from hand and arrival anyway. So I do have the ability to arrival just with what I got. So I think that's what I'm doing. Yeah, I'm gonna do this play. I'm gonna do that play, and then it's like bang, obviously I'm not rivaling, so I'm actually doing that. So you see that cost me 2 energies, but it's worth it considering the fact that it's like I got 30k. I mean, I'm awakened, right? No, I'm not awakened. So I'm 20k. Yeah, I'm not awakened. 20k, and then he's doing that thing. What was this? I don't know what card that is. The hell? Oh, is that? Yeah, I'm a little confused. Okay, I get it. That's the Zamasu super combo, right? Which is why he rested my Gogeta. I was like, what the hell is that? It's like, oh yeah. So but I'm a little confused though. Oh, but his leader's awakened, so he's 25. Okay. I'm like, wait, did he only combo 10k? Nah, yeah, he only combo 10k. He only needed to combo 10k because he's already awakened. So he was 25. He was able to stop that attack and prevent my second attack. So he got that. I'm 1 turn away, so if I can stall until next turn, I'm 1 turn away from being able to go wide with Go tanks and do what Go tanks do. That's gonna be. Oh, I forgot I'm not playing. Anyway, back to talking about deck building. Basically, that's what this deck video is more about. It's about deck building. How you don't really need to play test. Well, it's both subject. What I'm saying. The thing about playtest is the playtest is to fine tune you, not to fine tune the deck. The deck, you know, you can just fine tune it with just doing test hands. That's enough because it's all about, you know, the consistency of drawing the cards and then mulligan. You know, that does require skill, of course, mulligan, but you know, getting good with mulliganing, and you know, that's why you practice. You know, test hands include, of course, mulliganing, shuffling, drawing. Those are a lot of factors that go into that. So that's why it's important to know how to mulligan against certain matchups. You know, if you go first, you know what to mulligan when you go first, what to mulligan when you go second, because that makes a huge difference. There's times where I'm mulliganed so I can have a very aggro hand, and I ended up in a situation where I needed to be more defense, because my opponent was able to go aggro and I didn't have a way to defend. My hand was just all offense, no defense. So my opponent had the advantage because they went aggro. And think about it, I went first, so me going first and having a aggro hand wasn't optimal. Having a defensive hand would have been better. Where a combination of both is always good. You know, have some negates, right, and then your aggro cards, having both. But long ago, I used to always like mulligan my defensive cards away so I can try to get more of my aggro cards. But then that can cause me to be in a situation where, yep, I'm defenseless. But if I combo right and make decisions of when to combo, when not to combo, that makes up for it, aka skills, right? That makes up for lack of not having negates and stuff like that and defensive cards. But especially when you play competitively, you want to make things easier for yourself. You don't want to always rely on your skills. Skills is good. It's good to have skill, but realistically, especially if you consider yourself a competitive player, you want skill to be secondary, not primary. Primary, you should, your deck, the way it's built, the cards, what they can do, right? Those things you have to take to factor, right? You have to take to account, and then put them in your deck. Then your skill comes in. It's the same thing as choosing between a sword or nunchucks, right? Either one is useful if you know what you're doing, right? But one can be more. The sword would be more threatening, more powerful, more dangerous, as is, even with very little skill, than nunchucks. Nunchucks, for it to be very dangerous and deadly. All right, so the sword is deadly even without skill. That's what I'm trying to say. And then the nunchucks, if you are skillful, is just as deadly. So that's what I'm trying to say. Is like your skill is an amplifier, multiplies your deck's capability. Because one, without you, your deck does nothing. I mean, it's literally just pieces of paper. They don't have a life of their own. They're not sentient, right? They don't play by themselves. They still need you to play them. But you do need specific cards and specific lines of plays in the deck. Like if you look at this lineup right here, there's a lot of defense in here. Like I got a whole bunch of one-drop negates, bodyguard allergic, blocker. So there was a lot of defense there. So we're going, what we doing here? Clearly I had the 5 energy, but he had energy up. So that was going to present a problem. Oh yeah, this is it's always going to be a problem when it's Soul Striker. I remember saying that, like, Soul Striker is definitely one of the best decks, or leader, because because of what he does. He's not the only one that can do what he does. He just does it so well, right? Because you can say Super Saiyan 3 Goku leader, the rebooted one, pretty much is the same. Oh, he can untap their energy. They're like, yeah, the ability to use the energy on your turn to make plays and then untap them so you can have them for defense and to use them to make plays. The opponent's turn is always good. That's the problem. That's too good. When it comes to making decisions and plays and stuff like that, this is supposed to be a resource management game. You're supposed to be making plays. Yeah, you're supposed to be making. You're supposed to decide, when to play, when not to play stuff, and that's where it allows you to be skillful. But when you're taking that away by like, all right, yeah, you can make a play and then still can afford more. It's like, so then my opponent's not playing with 4 energy right now. They literally was playing with like 7. They used 4 on their turn, right? And then now they're back to 3 and all that stuff. So very unfair. Like what is fair is like, untapping 2 energies because you awakened, because you have to meet the criteria for that, and it's a one-time thing. So I'm not against leaders that awaken, the untap energy when they awaken, because you got to meet the criteria for it. So that's fair. But not fair is when you can just be like, all right, I swing and my energy untaps. It's like, we banned Zeno button for that. Like here with Dimension Magic, you can see like he untapped energy. Negating attacking untapped energy. Ain't that nice? And still has the ability to defend because he can afford to. So, but that's part of why I liked the leader because it's just unfairly strong. So it's a really good leader. It's the kind of leader I would recommend to a new player, to get them used to the untap energy concept, just the brokenness of being able to untap energy. Stuff like that's usually, abilities like this is usually banned in like Magic and other card games that are energy based or payment based, whichever way you want to call it, for a reason. Because like the reason we pay for cards is to reduce how what you can and can't do. Because if you could just play all the 4 drops in your hand in a single turn with the same energy, it's the same concept of going to a store with like $5, buy $5 worth of stuff, and then right before you leave, the store owner is like, "Hey, wait, here's your $5," and then you walk out with $5. Or you'd be like, "You know what? I want $5 more worth of stuff." And it's like, wait a minute, how do you get $10 worth of stuff for $5? That's not how it's supposed to work. You use the $5, that's it. You're not supposed to get $10 worth of value off of $5. So, it's the same thing with when it comes to untapping energy. Now, some people will try to say, "Oh, well, that's something the blue does, blah blah blah." It's like, yeah, but it's supposed to have a limit. It's supposed to have certain restrictions to make it balanced, right? To make it where, like, yeah, this is what blue does, but not too much so that it's like, yeah, this is not right. Every color wants this ability. This is not something too special for blue, right? Because the funny thing is, it's not that it's not blue. Like, the color itself is irrelevant. It's just the ability. Untapping energy is just powerful. Period. It's irrelevant. You can give this ability to a red leader, black leader, green leader, whatever. It doesn't. The color of the leader is irrelevant. Even the color of the card pool is irrelevant, because untapping energy is useful for any deck. For any color, because red can definitely use energy tapping, green can definitely use energy untapping, and so forth and so forth. Oh yeah, I'm using the auto when it hits the field ability. He mentions barriers, like it's like I double check, like, oh yeah, you're right, it has barrier, so I don't get the effect. It's like, all right, yeah, you got barrier, so I don't get that ability. Because this was the first time I've seen this card in action. So it's like, all right. The next card would have been that card. I don't think I win this one. The fact that I haven't even yet awakened, I don't even know how much life I got. Well, definitely more than 2, that's for sure, because I haven't even awakened yet. So we'll see what happens. So much to do, so little time. But let me just try to speed this up, yeah, because I don't want to talk for too long. Let's see what happens. This making the tokens. He does that. Okay, something's going on. You get boonies. Can I lose? I guess so. Wait, am I still in the game? Wait, I lost, right? I lost. I think he countered my topo for my. What's strange is how do you survive Gotenks play? That's weird. It's like I play Gotenks. Right? How he did survive. The real thing is like, how did I not get to do any damage? Okay, so I attack with that. That happens. That's what it was, right? I'm attacking. No power boost, so it's all 15k. 15k double strike to the leader. He says no response. So I say no response. So the out combo. Okay, yeah, super combos. Rest is one, like, okay, that's what it is. It was just comboing and tapping my tokens so I couldn't attack with them. Now, why did not single damage go through? Makes me wonder if I should have dropped gold tanks that turn earlier. He had energy up, so I was like, oh, he could stop me, but maybe I should have done it anyway, so that way I would have had pressure. Because if all my tokens, were still in the field on the next turn, I would have been able to swing more than once, so would have been able to apply a lot of pressure. But then he probably would have played a booty earlier, because he probably already had a booty. Oh well. That'd be the end of the video.